Russell Quirk, what would you do if you were the new boss of Countrywide?
Wow, my dream job, probably.
Really?
Yeah, it would be actually. I think that.
Get my share price up again.
Well, it's dropped to an all-time low today. It hit 8.2 pence on my way in here today. I thought I'd have a little look on the
We're
way.
filming this on the 4th of Jan, by the way.
Yeah, so, and it's got, of course, it's hovered under 10p for quite some time. Look, I think what's happened to Countrywide is a travesty. I really do. So I still remember, Countrywide being the business that
You looked up to?
yeah, but also that is really, to me, it's Bears to Weaves, right? So Bears to Weaves is obviously pretty much the biggest brand, I think, in terms of volume of branches, isn't it? My grandfather, when he started the original Quirk and Partners family business back in the 1950s, he set up the business almost alongside John Bairstow, setting up Bears to Weaves in Brentwood and Shenfield, where I live now. So I've got I have got an affection for the business and the brands, and I think it's really sad that the business has suffered as it has. And look, arguably, I think over the last 3 or 4 months, it could have very easily gone the same way as eMoov, frankly. I mean, it was hours away from administration, as I understand it, insofar as money needing to be raised, not just to prop the business up in terms of cash flow operationally, but also, of course, the mountain of debt that business had, 210 million quid. They've still got 70 million quid's worth of debt. So look, what would I do? I would sell a number of the brands, and obviously look, it's questionable in terms of what the value of some of those brands are, but whether it's Green & Co, Man & Co, Hamptons, Lambert Smith or whatever, I think you'd have to take...
Paul Smith from Spice of Heart said he's got a checkbook waiting.
Yeah, but it depends how deep his pockets are in terms of his
who's got the money?
Well, look, I expect if it's cheap enough, then there'd be buyers, of course. I think the problem is, of course, most of those businesses, like Green & Co, was 50 million quid, Lambert Smith Hampton was 50 million quid. They're not worth anything like that, of course, now. So you have to take it on the chin, but they can take it on the chin because last year the devastation of their EBITDA, their £200 million loss, was predominantly as a consequence of writing down a lot of those purchases. So they've kind of got a clean sheet now with regard to being able to write off some of those brands. Paul Creffield has apparently said, as I've read, they have no intention of getting rid of any brands. I think they need to do that, not just because those brands have value that therefore would pay down some of the debt, but also they simply don't need competing brands in a high street anymore. In a Google world, as we have now, people less so will choose their estate agent by walking down Southend High Street, seeing a Hetherington's and Abbott's, a Bears to Weaves and a Man & Co, and hopefully choosing one of those instead of an independent, whereby Countrywide historically would have got more than one bite of the cherry. These days, it's about social media, it's about referral, it's about Google, it's above the line, as Purple Bricks have demonstrated. So I think jettisoning some of those brands...
Yeah, but if you've got 4 on the high street, when you close 3 of them, you're not going to get 4 lots of business in through one.
Well, you might. I think if you were to run the business efficiently, and you were to run it as a modern business in terms of modern marketing, so digital marketing, social media, PR, and so on, I think you possibly could. But even if that's wrong, even if I'm wrong, when I analyse, as I've done locally, the local Hetheringtons, Abbotts, and Bears to Weaves branches, they are generally, and I won't be too sweeping to say that this is the case across all of their Countrywide network, but those Countrywide branches that I've analysed are generally the least best performing businesses in those towns. So Hetherington's in Shenfield and Bears to Weaves in Brentwood are bottom of the pile. So that's representative.
But they used to be at the top.
Yeah. So look, and look, it's a whole different video in terms of operationally, I guess, why each branch has ended up in that position. When you've got someone like Beresford's and Shenfield, Brentwood doing £100,000 a month, and literally next door but one to them, Hetherington's is doing 7.
Well, it's the staff, isn't it, and the way they're led?
Well, it's a lot of things. It's Alison Platt's legacy. It's perhaps the way that the business is being focused now. It's lack of marketing. It could be lethargy. It's a whole bunch of things.
Okay, so back. So you get rid of some brands.
But you've got to. I would obviously be.
What, just
strategic in terms of how you did that. So look, I'm not suggesting that you just...
But you're not going to sell the family silver though, are you?
No, so you keep Bears to Weaves, you probably keep John D. Wood, and you'd have to take a considered view on the brands and the branches that were obviously performing in such a way as to provide you the most value. But I think if you can go and get 50 to 80 million quid for some of the brands, particularly if not all of them in terms of their branches are making money, then that pays down the debt, which means you haven't got this crippling interest bill.
So are you getting rid of brands to pay down the debt, or are you just getting down the brands because there's just too many of them?
To pay down the debt, and the fact that a large proportion of Countrywide branches will not be making money. So you need to take a look at the loss-making branches and take a view as to whether they can be turned around very, very quickly, or whether they can't. If they can't, then of course they should be closed. But also, from a strategic point of view, you do not need to have 53 Bairstow branches in Essex. You simply don't. So, having a Bairstow in Billericay, and sorry, I keep using my local term as an example, because it's the area that I know. It's the area that I know. So, in my vicinity, you've got Billericay, Ingatestone, Shenfield, Brentwood, Hornchurch, Upminster. It's about 15 Countrywide branches.
That's 15 rents.
You need one. So you've got one overhead, you've got a back office,
as in a head
office. There's this hub and spoke thing being bandied around. Basically, it's not having the millstone round your neck as a business of 15 lots of increasing rents, increasing rates, the staff to go into those businesses, the cars that also relate to those staff. I think it's an utter no-brainer that Countrywide, LSL and others simply do not need to have the branch footprint that they have. What the online hybrid sector has proven is that you can go out, as we did at eMoov, you can have 45 local property agents, or in Purplebrick's case, 600 of them, and you can operate, so to your point now in terms of keeping your revenue up in areas where you don't have those branches anymore, by doing things differently. I'm not going to give everything away in this video in terms of my kind of master plan, but in the way that you would market those local property agents and your brands in those areas where you didn't have a branch, in terms of operational efficiency and in terms of the technology that you would employ, you can maintain revenue in a town where Bairstow, for instance, no longer have a branch, but do it whereby if you're doing that over a big area with one branch, revenue stays here, your costs plummet, your margin increases, and ultimately, as a consequence, the business overall, their EBITDA, their profit margin, their profit overall increases. And as a consequence, what happens to the share price? And that is exactly what Countrywide should do. But of course, look, Peter Long and Paul Crefeld made it very, very clear it's business as usual, and they think that the way to run that business successfully is to take it back in time, which I think is a bit like saying we did really shit in the World Cup last year, so what we should do is try and get Stanley Matthews and Trevor Booking off the bench and stick them in the centre circle, because when they played for us it was really good. The world has changed, Chris. The world has changed, and I think Countrywide and others need to understand that it's not 1978 anymore.
So is Peter Long, that's his name, yeah?
The chairman of Countrywide, yeah.
You were happy to talk to him and tell him how to run his business?
I'd love to, should the opportunity arise. Yeah.
There you go, you heard it here first. Thank you very much. Cheers.